Maurene Comey was fired. No warning, no reason. But you know what her response was? It was so strong it shook the system. Not with outrage and not with apologies, but with clarity, conviction, and a calm that just cut through the noise. Look, she didn't shrink and she didn't lash out. She owned the moment. And in doing so, she gave the rest of us a roadmap. Let's talk about what real power looks like when you've been pushed out, when you've been silenced or dismissed. Because what Maurene Comey did, it was a masterclass in mindset, presence, and emotional regulation. And if you have ever been blindsided by someone in power, if you've ever had to hold your head high when someone tried to cut you down, then this one's for you. Before we break this down, I want for you to hear exactly what she wrote. So I'm going to read it. This is Maurene Comey's farewell email to her colleagues. She wrote, "Yesterday was unexpectedly my last day in the office. I was summarily fired via memo from Maine Justice that did not give a reason for my termination. Every person lucky enough to work in this office constantly hears 4 words to describe our ethos: without fear or favor. Do the right thing, the right way, and for the right reasons, without fear of retribution and without favor to the powerful. And for the majority of my nearly 10 years in SDNY, fear was never really conceivable. We don't fear bad press. We have the luxury of exceptional security keeping us physically safe. And so long as we did our work with integrity, we would get to keep serving the public in this office. Our focus was really on acting without favor. That is, making sure people with access, money, and power were not treated differently than anyone else, and making sure this office remained separate from politics and focused only on the facts and the law. But we have entered a new phase where without fear may be the challenge. If a career prosecutor can be fired without reason, fear may seep into the decisions of those who remain. Do not let that happen. Fear is the tool of a tyrant, wielded to suppress independent thought. Instead of fear, let this moment fuel the fire that already burns at the heart of this place. A fire of righteous indignation at abuses of power, of commitment to seek justice for victims, and of dedication to truth above all else. It has been an honor to fight those principles by your side." And she ended her email. Now let's break down this through the lens of SOORE. And you might be wondering, okay, Blanca, what is SOORE? It's a life-tested framework that I've created. So SOORE is an acronym, and this is what it stands for. S is the shift your mindset. O is own the moment. A, align body language and words, and R, regulate emotions. And Comey, whether she meant to or not, or realized it or not, just lived out all 4. I created SOORE not for the people who've had it easy, but for the women who've had to rise through rejection, betrayal, and shame and still lead. So let's jump right in. So S, shift your mindset. Shifting your mindset means rejecting the lies that you've been told or that you ever started to believe about yourself, like you're not good enough. It's about deciding that you belong, that you're capable, and no one gets to define who you are but you. And that's exactly what Maurene Comey did. Maurene didn't just lose her job, she also lost her platform. But you know what she didn't lose? She didn't lose her voice. When you're fired without reason, the first thing that shows up a lot of times is self-doubt. You might start asking yourself a lot of different questions like, why me? How did I mess this up? Wasn't I good enough? But Maurene Comey didn't do this. She didn't collapse. In her email to her colleagues, she didn't internalize the shame. You know what she did instead? She named the power play. In her exact words, fear is the tool of a tyrant. That is a woman who knows this. This isn't about failure. This is about principle. She didn't let someone else's decision tell her who she is because she knows who she is and what she's made of. That's the power of shifting your mindset. This is where you stop asking the wrong question, like, why is this happening to me? And you start asking the right question, like, who do I want to be in this moment? Next, we have O, which stands for own the moment. So owning the moment means showing up with presence, even when the room isn't yours. Because when your body language speaks volumes before you do, and when that happens, the room is going to treat you the way you showed up. And that's what Maurene Comey did. Look, she doesn't have a platform or a podium, but you know what she did have? She had that one email, and she owned the moment with clarity, steadiness, and truth. She didn't collapse, and she didn't lash out. Her message was composed, it was intentional, it was full of conviction. And she named the danger fear, not just personal fear, systemic fear. The kind that spreads through organizations after someone is punished for doing their job. The fear that makes good people go quiet. The fear that silences truth because somebody else holds the power. And then she named the mission, which is truth. She didn't center herself in the story. She centered justice in the story. She reminded her colleagues, don't let fear control you. Don't let silence become survival. Stay anchored in what's real. Stay loyal to the truth. And finally, she brought them back to the foundation of it all, without fear or favor. And that's the model of the SDNY, which stands for the Southern District of New York. It means the law is supposed to apply equally, no matter your status, no matter your power, no matter your political connections, and no matter your money. So when she quoted that line, without fear or favor, she wasn't being poetic. She was holding the entire justice system accountable. She reminded them, we don't bend for pressure. We don't bow to power. We serve justice. And even though we couldn't see her body language in that email, we could feel it. All measured in her words, the calm, the control, and the conviction. That's what it looks like to own the moment. So even when you don't get the last word, your presence can still say everything. Next, we have A, which is for alignment. Alignment is when your tone, your posture, your body language, your message, they all reflect the same truth that you're feeling on the inside. Because when what you say matches to how you say it, then people feel your power. They trust you. You're believable. Because even without a face or a voice, you could hear her alignment in every sentence. There wasn't any rambling. She wasn't blaming anybody. She wasn't posturing, throwing out an attitude. She was calm, she was steady, with undeniable clarity. When your words match your values, people know. And they may not even know how they know, but they can just feel it. And that's what I teach inside SOORE. Your body language matters, but it only works when your insides match your outsides. Look, you can't fake alignment. You can fake a smile and you can fake a pose. But when you speak from a place that's grounded in truth, even in writing, it lands differently. Comey didn't say this is unfair. She said, let this moment fuel the fire that already burns at the heart of this place. She wasn't reacting. You know what she was doing? She was responding with purpose and intent. Her language wasn't emotional cover, it was actually emotional clarity, and that's aligned power. And alignment didn't come from her job title, it came from her identity because she knows who she is. So when you know who you are, you don't need to scream to be heard because your words carry weight. Why? Because they're anchored to something real. R stands for regulate your emotions. And regulating your emotions doesn't mean suppressing them. It means you choose how to respond, not react. So you stay grounded and in control when it matters most. And think about it. Maurene Comey had every reason to spiral, didn't she? She was fired without warning, no explanation, a public dismissal from one of the most powerful legal institutions in the country. Most people would have cracked or they would have lashed out. You would have heard the rage, maybe panic and bitterness, which would all be understandable. But she didn't do that. She didn't retreat. You know what she did? She regulated. Not by pretending nothing happened, but by choosing how she wanted to show up and how she expressed herself in her email. She turned that shock and made it into clarity. She turned that hurt into a warning. She transformed that moment into her power, and that's emotional regulation. You don't numb yourself, you name what's happening. You don't deny or suppress your anger. You direct it. You have control over it. You don't break, you breathe. And in doing that, you don't give your power away. You know what you do instead? You protect it. Comey showed us that you can be heartbroken and composed. You can feel angry, you can feel rage, and yet you can still speak with reason. Because when you regulate, you just don't survive the moment. You know what you do? You shape what happens next. So what did we learn from Maurene Comey? This is what we learned, that even when power tries to erase you and your presence can still leave a mark. You don't need anyone's permission to rise. Whether you've been fired, ghosted, lied to, or cut out of something that you helped build, you get to decide how your story continues. And I'll say this, especially to women who are watching. If you've ever been silenced, sidelined, or shaken, there's a way to rise that doesn't require rage or revenge. You know what it requires? Clarity. It requires alignment. And it requires fire that starts from inside, from within. And that's what SOORE is. That's what Maurene Comey showed us, whether she meant to or not, whether she realized it or not. And if this landed with you, if it stirred something in your gut, then drop a comment below and tell me where you had to rise. I'm Blanca Cobb, a body language expert with a master's degree in psychology, and I help women rise with presence and power in life's hardest moments. I break down real moments like this one through the lens of psychology and body language and emotional intelligence, so you can lead with presence. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe and share this video. Let's rise together and keep soaring. And I will see you in the next video.